What's going on, football fans? It's me, J.R. Clark, back again with another Pound for Pound ATL. Joined as always by my two main co-hosts, Toby D and Jonathan Holder. How y'all doing tonight, gentlemen?
It's a Tuesday night, and we're sitting at the top of the division. That's all I got to say.
There it is.
Absolutely. Like it's a good feeling.
It is. It is a good feeling. Like no clue how long it's going to. Oh no, Willie Doc is over here telling me that we done switch sides. Hold on, let's fix that. Bam, there it is, Willie. We back right now. We back right.
Willie's like, hold up. The world has tilted offense access. I cannot handle this.
Y'all throwing it off.
That's right. That's right. Anyway, we sitting at the top of the division right now. It is nice to say that, especially this early in the young season. And yeah, it's a good feeling. We got some good stuff to talk about. So I guess without much further ado, we might as well just get into it. Yeah. 4-3, number one in the NFC South. We got two division wins and beat up, decently a decent Bucks team. As far as coming into the game, you had Baker Mayfield as being one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the league. I think only had received 5 sacks coming into that game.
Yep.
Well, he's up to 8 now as the defense got home 3 more times. So that was nice to see. Got some stuff to discuss, obviously. As far as things that we need to clean up. But I'm gonna try to give Willie Doc a chance to throw his you ain't got to put no money with it, Willie. You ain't got to. I'm just giving you a chance to throw your predictions out in there before we get into the ballers and fallers this week. But before we get into that, Toby, what was your 30,000 foot view? That's kind of like how we do it. What was your overall, view of the game?
Ooh, so many directions I can go, but the main thing is that to me, these were some of the best scoring drives that I've seen the Falcons do all year on offense. Now, we didn't score a lot of points, but we were driving the ball effectively, and I haven't seen that all year. So that got me excited about what they can do going against the Titans in the next game when they play.
Jonathan, what was your 30,000 foot view?
The team's improving. Yes, there were the turnovers, and we'll talk about those. But you can see the offense, just exactly what what Toby was saying. You can see this offense progressing. You can see this offense coming together. Outside, between the 20s, team moved the ball pretty well most of the day against a really good defense. And then the defense is just it feels like it's just getting better and better.
Yeah.
The sacks are starting to come, just like Toby said before, just like I know we've all probably said it before, and the coaches have said, hey, the pressure's there. The pressure's been there from day one, and the sacks are starting to come, and so those we'll probably see those more and more as we go along through the season. So overall, I'm happy with the defense's progression. I'm happy with the offense's progression. I'm happy with Dez's progression. He's making some mistakes along the way, but I'm happy with his progression. And I'm happy with the coach's progression, especially on offense. I feel like the game plans are getting better. We're doing more things on offense. The playbook is opening up. And you go on the road in a hostile environment against a good team with a good defense, and you were clearly the better team on that field that day.
Yeah.
Regardless of what that final score says, you were clearly the better team that day. And I'm super happy to see that. And yes, number 3 in total defense for after week 5.
Look at that.
Yeah.
I mean,
or week 7.
We said for the past 4 or 5 years, oh man, if we could just get a defense, we could. Hey, guess what, folks? We got a defense.
Yeah, we do.
And you got a defense without major superstars. You could say Jesse Bates is a superstar, and I think he is definitely changed the face of the secondary.
Yeah.
But the defense as a whole, I'm not gonna lie, I never would have thought a first time defensive coordinator who had never called plays. He could have been first time defensive coordinator in the league, but had never called plays, would come in and just be killing it like he is.
Yeah.
Ryan Nielsen and Jerry Gray, they have gelled so well, that I think that they're coming out with a masterful game
Yeah.
plan, and
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying it right now.
Well,
Yeah.
I talked about it before the season started. That's like I've seen. We were talking about like our hopes and expectations for the team, and the hope was because we've seen it before, and I said it specifically. It's like I've seen this happen with other teams, whether it's the Rams when, I can't remember old guy,
Wade Phillips.
Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips shows up, and one year they're like one of the worst defenses in the league. The very next year, they're like one of the top defenses in the league. And we've seen that for other teams where they go from like worst to like one of the better units, offensive, defensive, whatever, in the league in one off season. And
well, I hate to say it like this, you had the reverse happen in Denver. Last year they were one of the best defenses under Evero, and this year under Vance Joseph, they're one of the worst. Like to the point that they're getting rid of people.
Well,
fire sale.
Well, yeah, they are probably going to get ready to fire sale, but that's a combination of the defense and offense. But also, unfortunately, like they're kind of skewed a little bit when it comes to the defensive side because of their 70-point give up to the Dolphins.
Yeah.
So they gave up a ton. But outside of that one game, their defense hasn't been horrible. It hasn't been what it was last year. And then you add that Miami game to it, and it's like, it just tanked everything stats wise for that defense.
All right, Willie, you said you got it ready, so go ahead and drop it. I want to see what your prediction is before we get
Willie
going.
Doc's got.
So, but before Willie drops it, before we got going, Fred tipped us $5, which we appreciate.
Thank you, Fred.
He said Ritter continues to show he's clutch. You can't teach that. Ritter is special. He's definitely got that clutch gene, that fourth quarter, that fourth quarter gene. I'll give him that. I just need him to get it, and he's starting to get it going sooner. Like the last two games where they've come out and scored a touchdown on their first drive, which they hadn't done. So I'm glad to see that stuff is starting to, to get rolling. LAJ, no, you have not missed it. He says, but a baller better be Nate Landman, and a baller better be Tampa's refs. That's pretty good. Letting Mike Evans be physical, but AJ couldn't sneeze. Yeah,
right.
There was definitely some. Normally, I don't try to get into the refs like screwed us kind of talk.
Yeah,
but the refs screwed us quite a bit in this game.
When we were discussing ballers and follows, I wasn't even like thinking of that, but now as soon as he says it,
like, definitely. All right, so Willie Doc tips us $10, which we appreciate.
Appreciate it, Willie. Said, you don't have to tip to give your
you don't have to
just
tip.
Giving you that heads up again.
All right, so Willie's baller was Algier rushing and receiving. Okay. Very good.
Man.
Algier. In the face of Bijan not being there, reminded you that he's no slouch either, and that was good to see, especially getting into the third and fourth quarter when he started ripping off those big chunks. Faller, the refs versus the DBs. He says somebody was being overly aggressive. Honorable mention, Koo, very solid. Yep, very solid. Side eye glance, Ritter. Protect the ball. That's right.
Yep.
Oh man.
So, but yes, I agree with all of those. So let's see where we got. Trying to see if anybody else is going to give anybody else. Nick says baller, Algier, Faller, Ritter for 3 fumbles. And like I said, we're going to get into those fumbles. All right. So let's get to the pound for pound ballers and fallers. Let me remove this banner real quick. Okay, here we go. Baller, David Onyemata.
All right.
Yeah.
He has been balling out for a while now, and I really wanted him to shout it out. shout him out because that fourth quarter sack that he had on Baker Mayfield, like that made them have to settle for a field goal, was huge to
Oh yeah.
me.
Mhm.
And he was getting pressure all day long.
Oh, he was a
Um,
monster.
yeah, he gave Cody Maul, a Senior Bowl favorite. Um, he gave him a much needed like welcome to the NFL moments. He
Greatest Senior Bowl picture ever,
Oh
by the
yeah,
way.
dude. And
Oh
I wanted
man.
Cody Maul like something serious.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think Cody Maul is still going to be a perfectly fine guard. That doesn't change, but freaking David Onyemata was all over him. So all right, so that was our baller, but that was also kind of like again the defense being a baller, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
With Rich, I really thought about after last week's conversations about Richie Grant. I really thought about putting Richie Grant up there because he had himself one heck of a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the interception, I think he had a pass breakup, like eight tackles. Like he was very active.
Like
But
I'll be honest, like Richie Grant has for the most part played pretty well.
he's had some moments.
He's had some moments where things didn't quite work out like we want it to, but overall he's been really good this year. Uh, but yeah, he's definitely our honorable mention in
Mhm.
this scenario.
All right, so on to the follow. I got Desmond Ritter.
Desmond
Yeah.
Ritter.
Not that he like had a bad performance, but you can't ignore the 3 fumbles in the red zone.
Yeah.
Now,
Yep.
one of them you could like technically speaking, you could put it on the O line.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
With letting them
Drew
get
Dalman.
right. Well, I was thinking of the sack.
Oh.
The sack that fumble, but still, even when you get that, like you got it as the quarterback, you've got to protect that ball.
Yeah.
And then there's a debate on the Drew Dalman one, right? Depending on who you talk to, like as being under center, he's supposed to have his hands, excuse my language, right in that center's nutsack.
Right.
Yep.
And that's where he
Right.
put the ball.
Yeah.
So you could say, like, you could kind of go either way on that one, depending on like your point of view. You could go that was on Dahlman. You could go that was on Ritter. With that fumble, but that last fumble, out the back of the end zone,
Yeah.
again, you've got to secure that ball.
Mm-hmm.
I will equate this to the what game was it he had the interception on? It might have been the Jaguars game because I want to say against Detroit, there was a pass that he threw that
Mhm.
was that he drops back foot hits the ground, and he's letting it rip, and it's an anticipation throw where he's throwing to a spot where his guy's going to be. But he was staring it down, and it's just the defense didn't react quick enough. He got away with it. It was
Yeah.
close, but he got away with it. The next week, he does that same exact thing against the Jaguars.
And
That defense caught it, went and got that ball on it. All right.
Mhm.
Now, since then, since that game, he has been much better. And I guarantee you, they showed it to him in the film room after that first game against Detroit and said, "Hey, you can't stare down your guy. Like this is not what we wanted. This is not what you need to be doing."
Right.
And he still ended up
Right.
doing it until he got burned.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. The fumble out of the back of the end zone. Now, the first time this happened, it was called like, "Hey, call stands, touchdown." He didn't get burned on it, but he was actually holding on to it better. But it just got poked out.
Right.
He didn't think anything of it. Didn't get the call or whatever, or got the call, so he was fine with it. This time he got burned by it, and I think this time again, it's one of those situations where until he got burned, it maybe just doesn't quite sink in. Now he's got burned by it. I don't think that's going to be a
Look,
problem.
at the end of the day, they're professional defensive players as well, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
and they're paid to punch the ball out. They're paid to make swipe at the ball and all that other jazz.
And they're one of the better red zone defenses in the league too,
Of
as
course,
well.
right,
So
exactly. And so I'll say this flat out that even if you don't score touchdowns on those 3 possessions, you're talking about 25-13,
Mm-hmm.
and like the blowout is even more evident, which is
yeah,
kind of my point. Like if you're Ritter and this is your year to like prove yourself,
yep,
more to the fans I think than to the coaching staff, but this is your year to prove yourself that you belong in this league, that you belong being a starter for the Atlanta Falcons. You've got to start cleaning that stuff up.
Yeah.
yep.
Like
Yeah.
that's plain and simple to me, and that's why
Yeah.
I used Ritter's picture as the faller, but kind of like with Onyemata, I use Onyemata to then give us a reason to talk about the defense. Use Ritter to then give us a reason. Okay, look, this is more the faller of the situation, like truly the faller of the game. I would really would put it on the refs,
Yeah.
because like they their officiating was horrible, and like I said, I try not to do that. I only try to call that out when it's actually horrible. So that is our ballers and fallers for this week.
Yep.
Says
What they
Willie
got?
says, yeah, he says as frustrating as Ritter's ball control was, I see his confidence in his command. The offense is right there, putting an index finger close to his thumb. I agree, and that's something that we're going to get into. We're talking about being in the first place in the NFC. What I saw from Ritter these past 2 games, especially against Tampa Bay on the road, and that's the important thing here. Up to this point, Ritter hadn't really shown much of anything on the road. And on the road, I saw a much better command of the offense than I have seen thus far from Ritter. Toby, what was your thoughts on that?
What I'm seeing is exactly what I said I needed to see. You're starting to see more wheel routes from the running backs, and it's working. You're starting to see more of the wide receiver screens, and they're working. So the stuff that I was saying that the offense needed to start doing, but for whatever reason was stubborn headed and doing it, it's what's helping Ritter cut down on the interceptions because now they're narrowing down the plays that work best for everybody in the team. When you got everybody is able to do the same things as other guys, I mean, Tyler Algier impressed me on Sunday. I was not expecting him to be able to catch the ball as well as he did on Sunday, and to show that he could still fill in when Bijan Robinson is not in the game, and it's just him and CP84. I was so impressed because now you have other guys that can do similar stuff, and you
Mm-hmm.
can switch them out in your personnel groupings and really mess guys up. But them wheel routes are starting to work like a charm for these running backs. And it's going to be hard for teams to stop that. They're going to really have to figure out how to game plan for that stuff. And the post route that Scotty Miller, there was a Scotty Miller showing on Sunday.
Oh
That
man,
post route was beautiful, and it was a beautiful throw.
yeah, no, it
Well,
was.
and people have been asking for double moves, and that was a double move.
Yeah.
Like he went up,
Yep.
out, in.
Yep. And Ritter was able to connect on him, and that was those kind of things, those kind of plays are going to only do wonders to help lighten up the box, lighten up the load. Also,
Mm-hmm.
the Falcons, I think somebody put it out with the bringing in of Van Jefferson. These past couple games, you've seen them use less heavy packages, and getting more speed on the field
Mm-hmm.
with, Cordell Hodge, Scotty Miller, and Van Jefferson,
Yeah.
which, I mean, it's, cutting into CP84, not CP84, but it's cutting into Mac Hollins time,
Yeah.
which I'm not necessarily, I was really wanting to see Mac Hollins get into more of a wide receiver 2 role. But as we predicted, that's kind of become Janu Smith.
Yeah. Man, Janu boy. Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Like, if there's ever great example of one team using a player wrong and another team or another staff knowing how to use a player right,
Right.
just look at Janu Smith's time in New England. Everybody's like, "Oh, he's washed,"
No.
and my man ain't washed. You
Mm-mm.
know, I think he's still leading the team in receiving right now.
Well, so the biggest thing with Jonnu Smith is he gives you something that, as good as Kyle Pitts is, and I think he's really good. I think he's trending upwards.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
he made an unreal catch.
Oh,
I
good
mean,
Lord. Yeah, we're going to
super
get
crazy
yeah.
catch.
Ooh,
It was only for 3 yards, but it was a crazy 3-yard reception.
that's right.
But the thing that Jonnu gives you that Pitts doesn't, and it's not a knock on Pitts for this, but what he doesn't do is he doesn't do a lot of the traditional tight end routes. He doesn't
Mhm.
do those little, like the little whip routes, the jerk routes, and things like. He runs traditional like wide receiver routes, right? He goes out, deep. He's going out there and doing wide receiver things a lot of the times, running the big overs and things like that. Jonnu can do that stuff, but he's also a guy that can get in there and do the Tony Gonzalez, like run out 5 yards, turn around, present a
Mm-hmm.
big target. He can
Yeah.
do the little jerk routes. He can do the under routes. Like he can do a lot of the small stuff that is very security blanket like
Yeah.
for a quarterback. So that gives you that kind of flexibility to put him there. Let Pitts be outside. Let him do the wide receiver thing and be like an explosive player. And then Jonnu Smith does all the tight end screens and the little small like 5-yard
Mm-hmm.
out routes and things like that you want your tight end to be doing. And it just becomes more of a security blanket for Ritter.
That's
Yeah.
the thing is
Mm-hmm.
Janu has that's what I was wanting for Mac Hollins when I was comparing him to Muhammad Sanu. It was the fact that Muhammad Sanu was that chain mover, that security blanket, absent Tony Gonzalez for Matt Ryan.
Right.
Okay, and so what is one of the two best friends of a young quarterback? Security blanket type tight end
Yep.
and a good running game,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Well, that's what you've got representation there with Janu.
Yep.
And let's see, Willie was asking who is passing target 1, 2, and 3 now. I still say your target 1 in progression is Drake London. It's either Drake London or Kyle Pitts. So they're like a 1A, 1B,
Right.
depending on play. And then target number 2 is Janu Smith.
Mm-hmm.
And then target number 3 now, depending on play and what that might be, Van Jefferson, Scotty Miller, Mac Hollins, or one of the
Darrell
running
Hodge.
backs. Yeah, Cordell Hodge, or one of the running backs. That's where you get into target 3. But I think your target 1, like 1A, 1B, is Drake London and Kyle Pitts.
Yep. Those are your big play guys. And then you want to add in Bijan Robinson as a guy that can be that. Haven't quite seen that blossom fully just yet.
Yeah, not in the
Yeah.
passing game just yet.
Yeah. But like I think he'll like those are your home run hitters, like the big, potential big play type guys. Especially Pitts and Drake, just because those are a couple of guys that you could see just throw it up 40 yards down the field, and just say, hey, go get it. And they're going to win most of those. They're not going to win every single one of them, but they're going to win most of the times they go down there and do that.
To Biggs says, yo, how about LaCale London? I wish him and Timmy Horn. I wish it was him and Timmy Horn on that second D. Yeah, he got rewarded big time by getting elevated to the 53.
Yep.
He had himself a sack, or at least close. Well, that sack was Campbell's sack.
Yes.
He cleaned it up, but that was Campbell's sack.
Yep. And he got the fumble recovery.
That's right. That's what it was. Yeah, I knew he got the fumble recovery.
Yep.
This one came in a little well before, but I wanted to go ahead and shout it out so when you listen to it later on. Skizzle Gaming says, just know I wanted to be here for the show. I'm deployed, so I'll watch it when I wake up. Thank you guys for the show, man. We thank
That's
you,
cool.
A,
Absolutely,
for your
man.
service,
Thank you
you.
for your
and B,
service,
for
sir.
your support of the show.
Yeah, man.
That was pretty cool. That's pretty
Or
awesome.
sir or ma'am, whichever one you are.
Whichever. Yeah, we appreciate it. Yeah, I'm not sure what Skizzle Gaming is unisex. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, I think it's super important to be in first place,
Yeah.
even if it's not for long. It shows that something we talked about before. Hey, the things we're trying to do, the things that the way we're wanting to play, the culture that we're wanting to set is working. And yes, we had some hiccups and some games that you probably shouldn't have lost. Like probably shouldn't have lost to the Commanders. But just stick with it, keep with it. And it was kind of part of me thinks that not having Bajan for the vast majority of that game was not a bad thing, because you kind of made them get back to some of the things that was working well for them last year. You know, with the outside zone game and stuff like that. It's almost like you didn't have the shiny toy, so you had to get back to some like roots type stuff.
Yep.
And I'm hoping that then allows them to better use the run game when Bajan comes back, because that was a thing that had been kind of missing the past couple games.
I mean, I'll tell you what I love, man. The passing game continues to improve, and that's what I want to see, because now you get that passing attack going along with a good potent running attack. Now you got something cooking, and Desmond's definitely getting better with his accuracy already. You know, and I on that post route, I mean, that was a perfectly thrown ball. And it was defenders actually there, but he was still able to get it only to his guy Scotty Miller on that post. And man, I can talk about that one all day, because that was a beautiful throw and catch by
He
both
dropped
guys.
it right in the basket.
Right in the basket. You couldn't have dropped it no better in there.
Yeah, Scotty had to slow up just a bit,
Yeah, just a bit.
But no, it was a good ball, the only where he could get it, and not just that ball, but he's showing some maturity in wanting, like it was that early in the drive, early in the game where he hit Hodge.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell that he probably wanted to go to Pitts there, but the defense was surrounding Pitts, so he fits it in behind him to Hodge. And then one of the plays that really stood out to me in a growth type situation is he'd already been using his legs a little bit, which I want to talk about here in a minute. But he goes to roll out again to the right, and he looks like he's going to be running it. And where you start to get that we're getting in sync kind of deal is you had Tyler. And then you had Tyler, instead of blocking for him, leaks out past him because he sees all that big green grass.
Mm-hmm.
And Dez sees it as well and drops it over for a huge gain.
That was nice.
Now, to me, you imagine that same type of play, but with Bijan's speed.
Yeah.
And that could be a nasty play.
Now, the question I have, I'm not trying to downplay it at all, but the only thing I will say is, if that had been Bijan, does the linebacker that comes up that leaves Algier,
does
he comes up to go after Ritter, does he do that if that's Bijan?
Well, if he does, Ritter had like a 30-something yard run earlier in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he does go with Bijan, that opens up probably another, 15 to 20 yards for Ritter to run. So Willie wants to know who had, with a $2 tip, he said, who had a better one-handed catch, Pitts or Robinson? I don't know, dude. Like Pitts would look more difficult to me.
Pitts was full, like he was running across the field. Okay. He reaches back, one hand, while he's got a safety or linebacker or what have you bearing like literally right in his other hip pocket,
Mm-hmm.
and then he has to bring that around. He brings it around all one hand and everything, and it was.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
I would say Pitts was the more difficult catch
Yeah.
because but both of them are spectacular catches. But Robinson he was a little he had just stopped, was looking back at the quarterback, and yeah, it was a little behind him, but then there was still like quite a bit of space between him and the defender. So there it wasn't quite the degree of difficulty I think that the Pitts catch
Yeah.
was.
Another PR agrees. He says I'll go with Pitts, and CDX for life says number 8 catches stop an interception, in his opinion. So yeah, I think Pitts's catch was a little more difficult, but that's a good question, or yeah, that's a good comparison. Fred
Yeah.
had a good comment here. He says Pitts showed his speed on that catch and run to get
Mm-hmm.
in the field goal
Yeah.
range. That's like another thing that needs to be talked about is that it looks like Pitts is finally starting to get back to fully in form.
That part.
Like we didn't have that earlier in the season,
Yeah,
and I think the coaches knew that and wasn't really trying to push the ball to him.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted him to get back into like game shape, game speed, and that took 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
But you're starting to see it now, and hopefully from here on out, we'll have a more potent attack with him and London. It says a lot to me that in a gotta have it situation, you know, that's when you see Pitts come up huge.
Yeah.
And
yep.
Mm-hmm.
Desmond went to Pitts earlier
So
in the season. Go ahead.
what's crazy is like after the game, Ritter was talking about that. He's like the play right before that where he throws it low, and Pitts doesn't quite come up with it. The very next play is that exact play just mirrored. They flipped
Right.
it.
They went to the other
Uh,
side.
and so like it's crazy that like you get the same exact play, but it works out so well one time, whereas the other time it just didn't. It could have, and Pitts will tell you he should have caught that ball because he got his hands on it. It was low,
Yeah.
but it's a situation where he probably will say I should have caught that ball. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Fred, we appreciate you
Hey,
again.
but
He
appreciate it,
says
Fred.
he says Pitts is starting to look like when we had Matt in his rookie season, and I think you're starting to get that version of Pitts again. And if we could get that version of Pitts along with Drake London and along with Bijan Robinson, I think that you're going to start seeing a more explosive and a more potent offense that we
right.
had, dreamed of, so to speak, in the offseason. But it starts with that banner. You have to take care of the ball. You
Yep.
know,
Yeah.
you have to, if it's like Drew Dahlman has got to quit bowling the ball back to Desmond. Like Desmond is catching the snap off his shoelaces or at his kneecaps, and that throws the timing off. Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody's like, "Oh, why is Desmond? He already throws the ball behind people. We don't need to aid that by making him having to bend over to get the daggone ball." So Drew has got to work on that, in my opinion.
Man, I gotta say, shout out to Jeff Okuda again.
Oh man,
I mean, he's starting to really put some games together now. I mean, he had another good game this game. And I'm looking. That's looking like it's a steal right now, guys.
yeah.
That's looking like it is a steal, and he is in Ohio State form.
I'll say this: it wouldn't surprise me if here, or maybe during a bye week or something like that, you see them, potentially lock up AJ,
Yeah.
go ahead and lock him up, and then try to lock up Akuda in the off
Don't
season.
don't we get an option? Because I know we got him before his 5th year option was picked up. Do we have an option to pick up his 5th year?
I would have to look into that unless
Yeah.
somebody in chat knows that for sure. Um, that's something I would have to research. Part of me thinks that we don't have that. ability, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me try to Google that real quick. Y'all talk among yourselves.
Like, all right. So if we're talking about defense, I don't know why you had the little apostrophe above the e there.
Because I probably hit the wrong button. Look, it's defense.
Yes.
If we're talking defense continues to ball out, I mean, yeah, like uh early in the season, first, after the first game, defense looked good, but I've seen this before where defense looks good after the first game, maybe first couple of games, and you're like, man, we might have something. And then they run into a team and then give up a bunch of yards,
Yeah.
and then it kind of just sinks. It just kind of it doesn't keep it rolling after that.
Right. All right, so I have an answer for you. According to Ian Rappaport, cornerback Okuda's contract was adjusted when he was traded from the Lions to the Falcons. So Detroit agreed to pay $1.5 million of his salary to facilitate the deal. Once that happened, Okuda was ineligible for the fifth-year option.
Oh, okay.
So once they did that, so he is on a one-year deal. So they have to re-sign him. Now, granted, you could, if you wanted to, you could lock up one and tag the other, but we've got the money. Especially if Ritter plays out well and we don't have to go chasing a quarterback. Like you'll continue to hear me say that until the end of the season, right? Like to me, 23 is what that is, right? So, if we don't have to go chasing a quarterback, we have the money to, lock up both of them.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you could get Okuda on a cheaper deal than AJ, just because it would be like a prove it deal for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
I could see him getting a deal that has a lot of escalators,
right?
To like, hey, if you play a certain amount, you get this escalator. If you, probably just a lot of playtime stuff to protect against injuries and things like that. And I think, and on top of that, because he's kind of, this is the first time, first year that he's really kind of putting things together. It feels like, then you can get a better, a more team friendly deal for an Okuda. And then, so I would want to lock him up for at least the next 2-3 years. Then we can figure out what we're going to do with AJ.
Right.
Hopefully get him signed. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. No, that's the kind of thing that you can play with the money. And I agree with Willie. Fontenot has not done any Dimitrov deals so far. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So like you could like kind of say maybe he overpaid Lindstrom. But I still think it's structured in a way that is a team friendly deal.
Yeah.
Not per PFF this week, because that dude is back up there. He was in the 90s this week on PFF. So I after those first few games, man, I was like, what happened to Lindstrom? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But he has righted the ship tremendously.
Oh yeah. He's from
the best O-line guy
yeah,
we got.
right. And that's part of what in these past few games that has, allowed Ritter to look better. Is he's not having to face that pressure.
Right.
I kind of agree. Like King says, as far as Ritter, I don't know about this. Only get away with this until he meets good QBs. We're debatable on that, because they don't. I get the point. The point is like King saying that once we face like a really good team that can put up points, can Ritter keep pace? And well, that'll be seen. But the type of play that we tend to have, you're not going to have a lot of teams score a ton of points because they're trying to play keep away, ball control offense.
Yeah.
But I think that as long as the O-line gets back to playing good and being able to protect, which against this defensive line, a line that has Shaq Barrett and Vita Vea and Nelson.
Yeah.
I think is his name.
What's that dude got really crazy last name?
Uh,
Um,
talking about Cansey or Chansey, the
no, but
rookie, or
he's good too. But
yeah.
it's a guy they've had for a couple of years now. Crap, what's his name?
Uh,
You got me
Uh,
there.
I'm about to say, yeah, you got me confused
Yeah, you
there.
got me there.
But anyway,
But
they've
if
got a
you,
good defensive line, and our line only gave up 1 sack. Now, I'll say this: another baptism by fire for Bergeron with having to deal with Vita Vea all day long.
yeah, but you
Uh,
barely heard from him all day. I
no,
only
they
heard his name called one time in the
right.
game.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
he did a good job.
yeah.
So I was pleased with that.
And normally Vita Vea tears us up. Like he normally wrecks shop with us. But
Yes,
I had
very much
forgot he
so.
was playing for a minute.
Let's see. Here we go. Okay. All right. So now on to an interesting topic: headache or discipline. And what I'm talking about here is one Bijan Robinson. Now, what we have heard, like, boy, I couldn't type there either. I said headache of discipline. Listen to that. Look at that. Y'all see that? Hold on.
Oh man, I just noticed that when
I
you
gotta
oh,
said
fix
by
that.
the
something.
way, it was Tryon Shoyinka.
Joe Tryon.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah.
Yeah, you didn't
He
hear him at all.
yeah. He
yeah,
from
Okay.
Washington, right? He came out of
Yeah,
Washington, didn't he?
he came out of Washington.
Yeah.
yep.
Uh,
Oh yeah, I liked him when he came out too.
right. Yeah, he was a guy who I was
Yeah.
would have loved to have been on the Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, where was I going with this? I was talking about a headache or discipline.
Yep.
What I mean by that is the Bijan Robinson deal.
Yeah.
And the
Mm-hmm.
Bijan Robinson uh, was pretty much absent the entire game. And it comes out that he wasn't feeling good, that he had a real bad headache, um, that he tried to give it a go, couldn't give it a go, suited up, everything else. Um, and there's supposedly a potential investigation of whether the Falcons didn't report him injury wise, like they should have or what have you. But there was another interesting thing that came out, and I want to know if anybody else, like, I've not been able to find it. So whatever the reports either got deleted, retracted, or whatever. But there was a report out there that he actually had somebody in his hotel room past curfew.
Mm.
And if that's the case, then was it him not feeling well, or was it, all right, rookie, we're teaching you a lesson
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing? You know, Fred giving us $2, which we appreciate.
Fred, but
Appreciate it,
He says,
Fred.
I think Robinson had a hangover. Possibly.
that's possible.
Yeah,
Look,
But
awesome.
I'll say this. Uh, I know he's a man of faith, and that doesn't always preclude like you doing making some, dumb mistakes, so to speak.
yeah.
But I know he's strong in his faith, so it's hard for me to believe that, he had somebody in his room when we wasn't supposed to, or that he was out drinking the night before
Mm-hmm.
a game.
Yeah.
Now, I don't put it past anybody. Just because you believe in the Lord, don't mean you ain't prone to make a mistake. Lord
Right.
knows I have made plenty. So I can't sit here and say that that's not out of the realm of possibility. Um, so I agree with King. He says it doesn't seem like that type of guy though, but who knows, right? And
Yeah.
that's kind of where that's like, who knows. So what, like, Toby, what were your thoughts? You think he just wasn't feeling good?
No, I don't believe it that was the case at all. I think he could have went if they wanted him to. But I think, they don't want to draw too much attention to it. But I think something else did happen besides some sickness that he supposedly had. And Arthur Smith wanted to send a message and make sure he understood. I don't care how talented you are at the end of the day, like you were saying before the show started, you're not above anybody else on this team. Yeah, we took you eighth overall, but you're not above anybody else on this team. And we're going to send a message to you to let you know, humble yourself. And
That's
I
it.
get it. You know, you are a man of faith, but there are temptations out there. You're making a little bit more money now, and you was already making, NIL deal money, but now you got more money added on top of that, and more people are knowing you. And so, yeah, it's tempting to probably whoever this person supposedly might have been in this room, if that is the case, that he may have had in there, and it could have caused some issues. So I don't know, but I know temptations are out there, and we're all not human, so we fall for stuff that's out there, even though we probably shouldn't. But things happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, exactly. Like if this was a case of him breaking rules, of having somebody in his hotel room, the day before a game, if that was the case, I'm not saying it is or is not. I have no idea. We may never know.
Yeah.
Okay, for sure. But at the end of the day, if that was the case for one, if that's what he got caught with, hey, I'm not necessarily mad at it. I don't, necessarily blame him one way or the other. But at the end of the day, if that was the case and he broke rules, and this is a case of Arthur Smith disciplining a guy who is super talented,
Yep.
super high draft pick, if that's the case, okay, I am super happy about how things worked out, both from a position of we won the game,
Mm-hmm.
and that put us to the top of the NFC South,
Yep.
and exactly like what you said and what we talked about before the show. This shows like, hey, I don't care who you are,
Hmm.
okay?
Mm-mm.
I don't care what your draft status is. I don't care how much money you made before you got here. I don't care how much money you make when you're here.
Mm-hmm.
You break these rules, and this discipline is for you. It's for the practice squad guy. It's for the inactive guys on the roster. It's for whoever the lowest paid guy is on this roster. Every
Right.
single person gets this same punishment. It doesn't matter who you are.
Right.
Okay, and that builds that accountability. That it builds the trust in the team that the coaches are going to do the right thing, and I like it.
Oh yeah.
I personally like it. But again, that's assuming that happened. If it all is legit, if it's literally the guy had a migraine headache, and I don't know 100%, and I get some people who have had it say you'll know if you have it.
Yeah, you will. Yeah.
I don't believe I've ever
Yeah.
had a migraine, but I know people who have, and I've seen the effect, and it is really bad.
Oh yeah.
So if that's the case, then hey, I'm glad the coach also was like, hey, I understand that this is a guy who's we really like to use. He's really important to us, but I also got to look out for his health. I like that part of it too.
Right.
So either way this goes, I'm down with it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm down either way,
Yeah.
and I'm also down with. And I know this is going to sound like possibly hypocritical of me, maybe, and it's kind of like going along the lines of what MJ's saying here. He says, "Imagine if Bijan really was out doing something when we said Jalen Carter was troublemaker, we wouldn't draft because of red flags." So I'll
Yeah.
say this: if Bijan out drinking, partying, having people, whatever, doesn't matter, whatever he was doing, and broke a team rule. I also like the idea that my coach wasn't putting him on blast in the media.
Right. Right.
Yes.
We're handling this
Right.
in house.
Mm-hmm.
I'll handle the media.
Yeah.
I'll handle the backlash of, oh, he wasn't on the injury reports or whatever. I'll handle that part of it. And, but you need to we're handling this discipline in house. And I
Yeah.
like that, Arthur, like I said, it wasn't putting him on blast for the rest of the world and then starting to drum up a reputation.
Right.
So if this is a
Right.
mistake, then we leave it as a mistake and we move on. LS, we appreciate the $5. Big time, sir. He
Appreciate
says,
it, LS.
is it just me or is Ritter getting outright surgical with them passes? He is killing them zone coverages. He is yes, the accuracy is getting much better. He's
Mm-hmm.
getting a lot more confident. This is what you get when, and this is why I completely understand our frustration from last year, everybody else's frustration, when it was apparent that Mariota wasn't the guy, why you didn't just go ahead and turn it over to Ritter.
I don't know.
Because you could have had this earlier in the season. I feel like we all feel like
Possibly.
Uh,
possibly. Go ahead, Toby.
I don't know, because the plays have definitely changed from what they did with Mariota last year to what they're doing with Ritter now. The passing attack is a lot more open, and there's a lot more different passing concepts, which you're starting to see. But they're narrowing it down to where it's helping Ritter better because now, like I said, they're finally figuring out plays that fit what guys can do best, and that's helping Ritter too. Now we can stop the turnovers, then we really will have something. But I'm not really worried about the turnovers as much because, like I said one time before, and I think it was last year when I was talking about Marcus Mariota, I brought up a guy named David Garrard. And everybody knows David Garrard was not the best with ball security, but the team had a good defense that one year, and they still almost won the division, even with all the turnovers that he was causing. So depending on what type of team you have, you can kind of still be able to recover from that, which we saw the defense clearly do after 3 fumbles, still hold them to 10 points,
Right.
13 points. So, the defense, man, is they're doing their thing right now. They are really feeding off what the team is doing, and they're all doing their thing right now.
Right. No, I agree.
And I'll say this, like the people that are like, hey, we should have started Ritter last year. We should have brought him in way sooner. We should have done all these things. I can kind of I can understand the thought process. Like, hey, we could have sped this up. But part of what I agree with some of what Toby said, which is this was a different offense last year. This is not the same offense from last year. So transitioning from last year into this year, there's probably going to be a learning curve either way
Yeah,
because it was just a different offense, right?
yeah,
But at the end of the day, you bring him in earlier than he came in. As far as for all we know, he could have been the QB version of Baker Mayfield. Like you bring him in too early, he comes in and makes the mistakes that he's going to make as a rookie quarterback, right? But without a lot of the understanding that comes with sitting on the bench, watching how things work, all that jazz, and he doesn't progress as fast
mm-hmm.
as he is now, where okay, I make a mistake, I come back the next week and I'm able to fix that mistake, and it seems like the progression happens super quickly because he's been able to kind of get over the rookie year jitters and get all of that stuff out of the way and had a full off season to rest and all
Yeah,
that stuff. And like, I don't know if we would have seen the same progression last year that we saw in the last 4 games or the last year through the rest of the season that we're seeing this year. I don't know if we would have seen that.
yeah,
We don't know if
Who
we would
knows?
have, if we wouldn't have. We might have broke him if we bring him in any sooner. The coaches didn't think he was ready until they brought him in. They brought him in because they thought he was ready to go. And I'm going to trust, guys who've been looking at players, been dealing with players, and knowing that.
Hold on, Jonathan. Hold on now. You can't be trusting. You can't be trusting those folks.
Dude, don't ever.
I sit here every week and just do nothing but like go to work and then maybe watch them. Anyway, no,
One day
way.
I will learn my lesson, and I will make sure that I'm listening to the right people.
Thank you.
going
Okay. All right. Willie Doc, we appreciate you
Willie Doc.
greatly. He's got a question for each of us.
Okay.
He says, do we still hold, for me, he says, do we still hold on to Ragone after this season? Depends on how the season plays out. We're 7
Yeah.
games in. We got 10 more games left. If we finish first in the NFC, win the NFC South, have a good showing in a playoff game, and we're making progression as we go, yes, you do. Like, I mean, all that can be true while still being frustrated in the early part of the season.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of sports, right?
People sometimes forget that early 2016, a lot of people were super frustrated with the Falcons and Kyle Shanahan and that offense because it wasn't clicking until the second half of that season.
Yep. And then, okay, so for John, does Nielsen stay as DC past 2024?
I think so. I think we might get him for 1, maybe 2 more seasons. My hope is that maybe he's a Dean Pease kind of guy, and that I don't want to be a head coach. I just want to coach defense.
Hmm.
I'm
And I'll
hoping maybe that's what we see out of him.
and I also think, and I hate to say it like this, you can say whatever you want to, but other things that go on around the league influence decisions. And what you're seeing right now with A, the league wants young offensive minds to run their
Yeah.
teams,
Yeah.
and B, the job that's going on in um, with the Chargers and Brandon Staley, who was a 1 year DC, and he can't seem to get it over the hump. So I don't know if right off the rip, if then you take Eberflus up in Chicago, like the defensive guys, depending on like how D'Amico Ryans does, you know, in so I think it'd probably be 2 years, maybe three, depending. All right, Toby, um, has Arthur Smith matured as a coach slash play caller?
No, I don't see that yet. I mean, I like what he does situationally. He's gotten good at that in that regard, but until he lets Dave Ragone go, and I don't care what nobody talking about. I mean, we can make the playoffs. Dave Ragone is not the guy. Okay, and I believe that's holding Arthur Smith back. Actually, I believe Arthur Smith is going to have to give Dave Ragone the boot. And I feel like if he does that, then this offense can open up now because this is your third year. You going into your fourth year. Dave Ragone cannot be your guy setting the table moving forward now because you should have your coaching down a little bit better with the situational stuff that you have to do with as far as the rules go and knowing how to manipulate that and stuff like that. So yeah, no, I just don't, not
I
yet.
I think on that comment, it kind of goes on with my question, or the question that I got asked was like, I would like to see them bring in like somebody to like you had Dave Ragone and Charles London. You
Yeah,
know, I would like to see them bring in somebody to add to that mix. You know, somebody who like a like a Joe Barry up in, you know, he was the OC for the Carolina, really good in pass concepts and things like that.
Mhm.
I would like to see them bring that type of a guy in to add to the mix, and makes me MJ's got to bring it. Makes me wonder. Um, Matt Schaub, you know, should be our play caller. I don't know about our play caller, but I wonder if Matt Schaub, as the season goes along, if he starts to get a little bit more of a voice.
I
yeah,
could see, because Arthur Smith, even with like all the money and potential connections and stuff like that, he still started out as a quality control coach.
Oh yeah,
hmm
And he worked his way up through organizations to get to where he's at. Okay. He didn't just step in and be like, I'm OC now or I'm tight ends coach now. No, he was quality control for a while and then moved up and kept moving up. I think he is of that mentality that if Schaub were to maybe be able to step into that role, it would have to be in a position where it's like, hey, you come in and be a consultant. Now you can come and be quality control guy. Now you can, if this is something you're serious about, I
yeah,
want to make sure that you're serious about it, and you can move up the ranks just like I did, and you can get where you want to be. I don't think you're going to see, oh, Schaub is here as a consultant, because that's kind of all he is right now.
yeah,
And then next year you're gonna be like, oh, he's our new OC. I don't think that's gonna happen. Weird, stranger things happen all the time in the NFL and just in sports in general, but I don't see that happening. So
yeah.
all right. Sorry about that. All right. Let's see. King had a good point earlier I wanted to get to before we. Okay. He says, so do we improve the O line more and make Ritter our guy? Is this the plan? I don't know yet. Like, and I know that sounds like such a cop out answer. We feel better after these last two games, or last three games, really, since the Houston game. We feel better, but that still doesn't mean that he's the answer, right?
yep.
We're not. I'll say this: if we keep going in the trajectory that we're going, I could easily see Arthur sticking with him.
Yeah.
you know. And if that's the case, the only improvement that I'd like to see is, possibly getting Dahlman some center training or snapping training. But the line itself is starting to play better.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they end up playing better, then I can easily see Ritter being the guy, right? And because he operates the offense when he's not turning the ball over, that's the obvious statement here.
Yeah.
He operates the offense in a way that is moving. Y'all realize that in back-to-back weeks we've had over 400 yards of offense?
Yep.
Wow. Now
You
I
see
didn't
that?
realize that,
What
but
in
wow.
the
See, that's just
last
yeah,
Yeah.
since the Texans game, if you count Texans,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Commanders, and this last game,
Yep.
like the Falcons have more total yardage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the points aren't there because of the turnovers. But
Right.
yardage wise, like just the offense moving the ball up and down the field, they have
Yep.
more yardage than the Miami Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
And
yeah,
as
those are
far as
empty yards because you don't get the points off of
right,
them. But
and
that goes back to the taking care of the ball banner from earlier. You take
right,
care of the ball and you start punching those in, or worst case scenario, say half of those are touchdowns and half of those are field goals. Your points per game, your points over that stretch are, much
much
closer to the
different.
Dolphins than they are now.
And I'll say this, like it was Benjamin Soliak, I think is his name. He does a podcast for The Ringer, if I'm not mistaken. And he was picking, he had the Falcons this past week after the game on Sunday as one of his like favorite offenses in the in the NFL. Had him picked to win the NFC, all this other jazz. And one of the reasons why is like he said in this past, like since the Houston game, Desmond Ritter, even with the turnovers, which is crazy to think, has the only quarterback that's playing any better than Ritter is Mahomes. Straight up and down. Like as far as all your advanced metrics, like
Yep.
your EPAs and all this, other jazz, the only one that's playing better is Mahomes. So, like, that's encouraging, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
all this could go away if we get into a stretch where he was playing like he did at the early part of the season.
Yeah.
So that's why there's still a big if, right?
Right. So I mean, what it comes down to is if the O line at minimum plays like it's what it's playing right now, okay, especially from this last game, we start getting that run game going, whether it's early in the game, mid game, late game. But if we can get the run game at least efficient enough to keep people honest, right, and the passing game at bare minimum continues at the rate it's going right now, and you're going to have turnovers, but we cut those down to either once a game, once every other game, or something like along those lines. If we can cut those down, then that offense goes from being it looks good to being it is good.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so like this offense, if it continues on the trajectory, could be scary good by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had a breakthrough with them scoring drives.
Yeah.
And so that's what has they already now have gotten the pass attack going. So that's a good thing. But now you add these scoring drives, and all you got to do now that you kind of have a formula for the plays that you're using now to get you down there as good as they was getting down there. Now you got to punch it in. You got to find ways to score when you get down there more than 3 points. And so once they put that together, I think this offense and cut down the turnovers. This
Yeah, you
offense is
got to do
going to be
that.
better around week 10. I give them week 10. They're going to be efficient. That's what I believe.
People, Fred Butts again. We appreciate that. He says people forget that this is Smith's third year as a head coach,
Mm-hmm.
and he's still learning. I get frustrated with him too, but he's still learning. He is in the sense as far as like the balance between like the play calling, the offensive, and then the head coaching duties. That's why not every guy's cut out for that.
Yeah.
Can he? Can he get that balance?
Well, I mean, but you look at a guy like like there's how many coaches nowadays that we look at as the like great coaches that we have in the league. There are some that like first time out the gate, great. There's a lot of coaches out there. You look at Bill Belichick, he was with the Browns. They started out rough. They started to get better before they got moved, right? But he was with them and they weren't like anything to necessarily sneeze at early on. And then Pete Carroll was with I think he was with the Jets.
Yep.
And maybe that was just the curse of the Jets, but they stunk. They were bad.
Yeah.
And
Well,
he had to leave and go to college football for a few years before he could get back in the
Yeah.
Like, as far as that goes, like everybody points to, Shanahan, the play caller, and Shanahan, the head coach. First 2 years, 6 wins, 4 wins.
Yeah.
The third year, he had 13 wins. The following year, back down to 6 wins. So, it's a, there's room for improvement, as always. Somebody put up earlier, should we trade for Hunter? And then Dr. Ganja says defense top 5 right now. Still want Hunter or Montez Sweat, which he corrected. He pulled a me. So what? So what are y'all's thoughts there? Do y'all think we make a move before the trade deadline? We already made one move and got Van Jefferson in, which desperately added some speed to the wide receiver room. Do you think we go out and get a bona fide pass rusher? Like right now, you're doing it with, Bud Dupree and Lorenzo Carter and Arnold Ebiketie and, like Calais Campbell, and then, of course, the Grady and Onyemata. But do you go and get a guy that you have to actually worry about down in and down out? Would you? Or do you think they do it? I guess is a better way to put it. Do you think they do it?
I think they are looking. I think they're probably making calls to see like what the cost is going to be. Trying to figure out is it the right cost? Do they want to go that route? I think I think after last night, Danielle Hunter, that dream's dead.
Yeah, you beat and you were the better team than San Francisco, like pretty much the entire game last night. So that makes me curious as to whether Hunter gets moved or not.
If they lose that game yesterday and they're 2-5, I think they're sellers, and I think Danielle Hunter probably gets moved. I think probably there's potential that Cousins might have gotten moved, though who knows. But at the end of the day, they win that game. They're 3-4. Their division's not exactly super running away with it. I mean, I think the Lions are there, but that's we'll see if that can. They kind of got exposed a little bit this past weekend. Does that snowball on them, or can they get back to what they were? But I think Danielle Hunter, that's dead. Montez Sweat, maybe a Chase Young or something in those realms, maybe is probably closer to a reality. But I think they're looking, but I don't think they want to give up a ton of draft capital. So we'll see how it goes. But to be completely honest, if we end up not making a deal, I'm not going to be super upset about it.
I'm not going to be upset,
Yeah.
But Toby, what do you think? You think they make a deal?
No, because now you're starting to see the sacks rolling in. And you can see what I was saying before with the team, the defensive line getting that chemistry now. They're starting to feed off each other now. And so you don't bring anybody else in to mix in with that because now you got a good rotation going on. You're really starting to learn. You're seeing Ryan Nielsen and really starting to learn who to bring in there and get things going. And so when you got, 8 sacks in the last 2 weeks, you keep rolling with the guys you got. You're going into another week now. Now the defense is getting even stronger. So now you're really getting that stuff going, turning over the ball, getting more sacks. And now it's going to continue to grow. This defense is building a lot of confidence now. Now all we need, Calais Campbell starting to finally turn it on. He's got 2 sacks in the last 2 weeks. So now you're starting to see these guys doing things. And it's getting scary because once Grady Jarrett starts getting going and you really get Bud Dupree start getting going. So now you got everything you need right here to do everything you need to do. So I don't see them making a move. I think it's just getting started, man.
Yeah, I think I put out a tweet earlier that I would love to see a true fire breather get added, to this D line. Somebody, you know, to me, it's, Ray Fitty says, Chase or Montez. I think I would probably go Montez just because of, um, like the injury history that Chase has.
Yeah.
Um, is something to be concerned about. But if you had a guy who truly commanded like that respect, would even like open up more for other guys, in a sense, right? Um, but I can see the point that you're making, Toby, as far as like the chemistry on this D line is really starting to, come home, and not just with the D line, but the the like the safeties coming in on blitzes with Helms and
Yeah,
Bates, and
yeah,
then those other guys, really starting to, like, you had they didn't get home because they ended up calling a screen at the perfect time, but they sent Richie Grant and Ellis dead up the middle on one play early in the game, and I was like, oh, that's just nasty right there,
Yeah.
and so um I'll be interested to see. I wouldn't be upset either way, but I think I tend to agree with you, Toby, but the greedy nature of me wants like a bona fide, John Abraham type guy who is gonna like close out a game type deal.
yeah.
All right. I think
Uh,
that's gonna pretty much wrap it up for us. I don't think I missed anything. I think we covered that. Nick said 6-4 or 7-3 before the bye. I could see 6-4 for sure. Um, a couple
who we
more
got? Who we
wins.
got before the bye?
Let's see. Before the bye, let's see. We got go away thing. We got Tennessee next week. Then we got Minnesota and Arizona. Yeah, Minnesota and then Arizona.
Mm.
I
So
I could see. I could like. I'm gonna say 6-4 because I think we're gonna beat the Titans. Their defense is really good. Their offense is not good when they have is not super great when they have Tannehill, and he's not going to be there.
right,
So it's either going to be Malik Willis or
Will
Levis.
Levis, yeah, or a combination of the two.
Yeah.
Um,
So and so far the defense has shown that when we have young rookie quarterbacks, we're pretty good about like or young guys that are inexperienced. Let's put it that
right,
way.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That we're pretty good about keeping them under, keeping them down a little bit. So
hmm But I think I'm with Dr. Ganja. Like the biggest is going to be Minnesota.
yeah,
Um, which
Arizona, it doesn't look like a slouch, really. Completely, to be completely honest.
not a complete slouch, but they put Zach Ertz on IR. And like if Kyler Murray's back by then, it might be a little more challenging, maybe
No, I
depending
like
on.
our chances better with Murray. To
I
be
kind of
completely
yeah,
honest.
yeah, I kind of do too as well. I'm not gonna lie. Um, but yeah, I think the Titans offensively, I don't think we're gonna have to worry about as much, especially if they do something crazy and trade Derrick Henry,
Right.
because that's been rumored. So, but their defense is a little stouter, but we just played a pretty stout defense and did okay with it. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. But I would say 6-4. I could see us losing to Minnesota. Um, so Toby, any thoughts there?
I think I'm going 7-3.
7-3.
Yeah, I think they're gonna
You think
finally
they're
get
gonna
it going,
finally?
man.
You think they're gonna finally rip off 3 wins, 4 wins in a
Yeah,
row?
because the way that it's going now and the way that the offense is finally starting to gel now and putting things together, I think, like I said, this is one of the best weeks of scoring drives I've seen out of this team and against a division opponent.
Right.
And so I'm thinking now they're going to put all this together, and the defense is already putting it together. Now I think the offense is finally about to come aboard, and they're going to string off some wins. Arthur Smith will win more than 2 games uh, in a win streak. I think he's going
Hopefully.
to finally get his first 3, maybe
Hopefully.
4 in a row.
Cool. Well, all right. Well, I think that's how we're going to wrap this thing up. I appreciate everybody we all appreciate everybody who has dropped by, hang out with us, put up your comments, gave us tips. We appreciate it. Well, we say it often, but I'll say it again. Without y'all, I'd just be talking to these two on the phone.
Yeah.
We just be texting back and forth. So we appreciate y'all
Absolutely.
hanging in there with us and showing up. As always, y'all can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Grimm1128, GRIMM1128. Jonathan,
At Jonathan M. Holder. Come by, say hi.
Toby D.
Toby D, 1991.
That's right. Probably ain't gonna be doing anything this weekend. Y'all don't seem to be enjoying that or jiving on it. So maybe we'll take a break, come up with something better here in the next few weeks. So we'll see how that goes. But we will be back live next Tuesday. So see y'all then. And as always, Falcons fans, rise up.
Rise up.
Rise up.